Hey everybody, it's your bro CDP Chris Palme here at the Gryphons Center, where the women's hockey team, the Guelph Gryphons, defeated the Toronto Varsity Blues today 2-1 to even up the series. The best of three series at 1-1 with Game 3 tomorrow at 4 o'clock in Toronto. And with me now is the voice of the men's and women's Guelph Gryphons hockey teams, Geoffrey Brandow. Geoffrey, thoughts on today's game and the series so far against the Varsity Blues?
Oh, Chris, what a game! What a game! You can see how much women's hockey has improved, especially when you look at two top-notch teams. These are two teams that were ranked in the top 8 in the final standings in the C or the U Sports, and you can easily see why. They're so good defensively, so good offensively too. You want to see a little bit more from Guelph's offense. They were able to get that 2 goals, more importantly than the Toronto's 1 goal. But it's it was a showcase for women's hockey that game.
Thoughts on the broadcast today with your partner Isaac Carmichael?
Yeah, I really like working with Isaac. He's a very good color guy. He has a sense of the game. Color, when you're used to doing play-by-play like he has at color at Laurier, when you do color, it's a little bit of a different perspective. You don't look at things. I always tend to think of it, or I always tend to call it a paint by numbers. The play-by-play guy or the play-by-play woman will cross the line 1 point, 1 point, 1 point, whereas the color person fills in with the color. And it's a little bit a different way to look at the situation. But I really like working with Isaac, and I like working with Scott as well.
How long have you been doing the men's and women's hockey teams for the University of Guelph?
So this is the end of my first year, and once again, I hope that everybody at Gryphons as part of UHCB has enjoyed the work, and hopefully you'll have me back. This is the thing I've wanted to do since I was in diapers and probably just out of diapers. And to finally be able to do this and become the voice of a university, of my university, my hometown university, it's a big honor, and that's something I don't ever take for granted.
What was it like calling that overtime winner against the Windsor Lancers last Sunday?
Oh, that was exhilarating. I told you, Chris, when we were leaving that I felt euphoric. Like, it's not very often, as we all know, that you get to call a 4 overtime game. So for it to happen in the second playoff broadcast you do, plus a double overtime game in the first broadcast, you walk away feeling, I can't believe I just did that. Thankfully for the Gryphons, thankfully the home team won, and the goal and the call has gone around the world. I'm very thankful for that. But it took a long time to come down from it. I probably watched that goal and heard that call probably 100 times ever since it happened a couple weeks ago.
When starting out in media and broadcasting, did you have a mentor and somebody in the industry that you kind of looked up to, Geoffrey?
It varies from year to year, and it varies from play-by-play person to play-by-play person. First, I grew up on Bob Cole on Saturday Night. He was the it guy of how to weave a proper story, of how to get into the players and what they're supposed to do. I really like Jim Houston as a play-by-play broadcaster, because not only was he a broadcaster, but he was able to bring a little bit of intensity to the game, and he was also funny during the games too, and I like to add a little bit of comedy to my spectrum. And of course, if anybody's listened to me and learned my verbiage, Doc Emmerich was a huge influence. I'm a true believer in there's more than one way to say the word pass. There's more than one way to say the word shoot. So anytime I can use a different word, I always relate it to what Mike Doc Emmerich has meant to us as hockey broadcasters.
Any advice for anyone that's watching this later on that is looking to get into broadcasting and media?
Start wherever you can. I've been at this for almost 20 years of over half my life, and I've called everything from baseball to roller derby. It's how you make yourself better. It's how you make yourself more employable, perhaps, and the more stuff that you can put on your spectrum of work. It's not unlike an athlete in and of itself. We're so into the world of having to make do with you're only a hockey player once you get 10. You don't play lacrosse anymore. You don't play baseball. You don't play football. Instead of creating athletes who can basically play any type of sport. The Bo Jacksons and the Deion Sanders of the world don't exist just simply because of that. And I hope that, and I think that broadcasting is the same way. You don't have a Vince Scully who used to not only call baseball, as godlike as he is, he also called a little bit of football too. Kenny Albert, think of what Kenny Albert does. He is the Stanley Cup broadcaster for TNT, and he's also a fifth string broadcaster for Fox and football. That's how you make your way into the door. That would be my advice.
Okay, before we wrap it up, Geoffrey, what are your thoughts on Game 3 tomorrow of the Guelph Gryphons Toronto Varsity Blues game in Toronto? And can you tell my audience why they should, in the future, look at going to OUA hockey games, both men's and women's?
Well, first of all, it's excellent action. You're going to see a lot of that during Game 3. You saw a very defensive affair. Guelph just could not get pucks to the net, and when they did, they were finally able to beat Erica Fryer. I would imagine this lather would repeat for Game 3. Toronto's got the home side on their run as we get the Gryphons women coming past us here, so as they get their cool down exercises in after what was a fantastic performance by them. And in a couple of hours, I expect nothing less as they get on the road. They've been a great team on the road thus far this year. As much as I don't want to say it too loud, with them in front of me, they had 4 more wins on the road, and I expect them to come out again and be that way.
Final prediction for tomorrow's game.
I'm not usually into predictions, but here's hoping that the Gryphons come out victorious.
Okay. Well, Geoffrey, thank you so much for doing this. And where can my audience find you or follow you on social media if you're on any social media sites?
You can follow me at Geoffrey Brandow on Twitter, GeoffreyBrandow, and I look forward to seeing all your followers.
Well, again, thank you so much, Geoffrey Brandow, the voice of the men's and women's Guelph Gryphons hockey teams, and we'll see you at the Sleeman Center for more OHL hockey this season as well.
Absolutely, Chris. Love.
Thank you so much, Geoffrey. Take care.